Mother Teresa, known worldwide for her selfless work with the poor, sick, and destitute in Calcutta, India, was a symbol of unwavering faith and dedication. She founded the Missionaries of Charity in 1950, an organization dedicated to helping the hungry, the naked, the homeless, the crippled, the blind, the lepers, all those people who feel unwanted, unloved, uncared for throughout society, people that have become a burden to the society and are shunned by everyone. Her life was one of sacrifice, simplicity, and an unyielding commitment to serving the most marginalized. However, behind the veil of her famous humility and charity, Mother Teresa endured deep spiritual struggles, struggles that were hidden from the public for decades. These inner battles were revealed only posthumously through the publication of her private letters and the book Come Be My Light, which shed light on the profound emotional and spiritual darkness she faced. These revelations left many wondering, how could someone so devoted to helping others experience such spiritual pain? In 2007, the book Come Be My Light was published, bringing to light some of the most surprising and heartbreaking insights into Mother Teresa's life. In it, readers learned that for much of her life, particularly in the last 50 years, Mother Teresa experienced what is known in Christian mysticism as the dark night of the soul. This period is marked by an intense feeling of abandonment and the absence of God. It's a spiritual crisis that many saints and religious figures have gone through, including Saint John of the Cross, who coined the term. Mother Teresa herself spoke openly in her letters about her feelings of spiritual desolation, revealing a side of her life that no one could have imagined. For years, she had silently endured an intense interior struggle. Despite her public persona of devout faith, she felt as though she was walking in spiritual darkness with no sense of God's presence in her life. This left her feeling profoundly isolated, and at times, she questioned whether her efforts to serve God were in vain. One of the most poignant admissions came in a letter she wrote to a confidant in 1961, in which she shared her feelings of abandonment. "Where is my faith? Even deep down, right in my heart, there is nothing but emptiness and darkness. My God, how painful is this unknown pain? I have no faith." These words were a stark contrast to the Mother Teresa we knew, one of unwavering faith, strength, and commitment to her mission. How could someone who had spent decades helping others, doing what seemed like the work of a saint, struggle with such doubts and a sense of God's absence? Mother Teresa's struggles were not just emotional or psychological, they were spiritual. According to Saint John of the Cross, the dark night of the soul is a period in a person's spiritual journey where they feel abandoned by God, but it is not a sign of loss of faith. Rather, it is seen as a necessary purification, a deeper connection with God that occurs when a soul is stripped of all attachments and personal desires, including the emotional and spiritual experiences of God's presence. This phase is meant to purify the soul, allowing it to move beyond superficial experiences of faith to a deeper, more intimate relationship with God. It's a painful, often lonely process that can take years, and it's typically hidden from public view. For Mother Teresa, the agony she experienced was a paradox. She was serving the poorest of the poor, dedicating every day to God's work, yet she felt far removed from Him. It was a profound contradiction. She had dedicated her life to Christ and His service, but in her moments of quiet prayer and reflection, She felt utterly alone, unable to feel God's love or presence. Despite these inward struggles, Mother Teresa never allowed her personal doubts to interfere with her mission. In fact, it was her deep love for God and her desire to serve the poorest people on earth that motivated her to continue despite her pain. Her faith in God's calling was so powerful that it propelled her forward, even though she often felt disconnected from the very source of her strength. Mother Teresa's commitment to the poor was unshakable. She once said, "I see Jesus in every human being. I say to myself, this is hungry Jesus. I must feed him. This is sick Jesus. I must heal him. This is a lonely Jesus. I must be a friend to him." Her work was grounded in the belief that by serving the poor, she was serving Christ himself. She believed that each act of kindness was an act of love for God, even if she could not feel his presence in return. Prayer was central to Mother Teresa's life and work, even though, as the years wore on, her prayer life became a source of torment. Her letters describe an ongoing struggle with prayer where she felt disconnected and unable to experience God's presence during her times of devotion. In one of her letters, she wrote, "The silence and the emptiness are so overwhelming, and yet I know I must keep on praying." This feeling of emptiness and spiritual dryness became a recurring theme in her letters. While she continued to work tirelessly, caring for the destitute, she often felt as though she was going through the motions of prayer without any true connection. But she never wavered in her commitment. She continued to pray despite the silence that surrounded her. In one particularly touching letter, Mother Teresa confessed, "Jesus has chosen me for this work, but he is not with me. I do not feel his presence in my life, but I will keep serving." This statement speaks volumes about her deep faith in God's plan for her life. Despite her inner turmoil and spiritual dryness, she continued to work for his glory because she believed that this was her purpose. A saint's sacrifice. Mother Teresa's struggles were not just about her own suffering. They were a reflection of the profound sacrifice she made for others. She dedicated her entire life to the service of the poor and the sick, often sacrificing her own health, emotional well-being, and spiritual peace. She lived in constant physical pain, suffering from ailments such as heart problems, and yet she remained steadfast in her mission. She believed that her suffering was united with Christ's own suffering, and that in bearing her pain, she was participating in his redemptive work. Her example of faith in the midst of spiritual darkness has been a source of inspiration for many. She taught us that faith is not always about feeling God's presence, but about continuing to trust and serve even when we feel abandoned or unsure. It's a reminder that true faith often requires perseverance in the face of doubt and suffering. The final years and the revelation. Mother Teresa's spiritual struggles continued throughout the last years of her life. However, she remained steadfast in her faith and in her calling. It wasn't until after her death that the full extent of her inner turmoil was revealed to the world. "Come Be My Light" published her letters, allowing us to understand the depth of her suffering and the way in which she carried the weight of the world's pain on her shoulders. In the final years before her death, Mother Teresa was physically frail, but her spirit remained strong. She continued to serve, to pray, and to offer herself as an instrument of God's love. Her devotion to her mission never wavered, even though she felt spiritually abandoned. In fact, it was in the midst of her darkness that her faith shone the brightest. Her service to the poor and the suffering became her expression of love for God, even when she couldn't feel His presence. Legacy of faith and love. Mother Teresa's final years were marked by her unwavering commitment to love and serve others, despite the absence of the spiritual rewards she might have once felt. Her legacy is not just one of charity, but also one of perseverance, humility, and deep love for God. In the face of profound spiritual darkness, she continued to live out her faith, demonstrating to the world that true love for God does not depend on feelings, but on actions. Her life and work continue to inspire millions around the world. Mother Teresa's story is one of sacrifice, faith, and selflessness, qualities that have defined her as one of the greatest spiritual leaders of our time. Mother Teresa's inner struggles provide a profound insight into the complexities of faith. Her story shows that even the most devoted and pious individuals can experience moments of doubt and spiritual desolation. But it also shows that faith is not about emotional highs or personal satisfaction. It's about perseverance, love, and a willingness to serve, even in the darkest of times. Her life and legacy continue to inspire us to serve others with love and humility, regardless of the circumstances. And in doing so, we can learn from her example that even when we feel distant from God, our actions of love and service are what truly matter.